Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, Volume 2. We'll meet the author next on City Corner. I'm Steve Potter, and welcome to City Corner. Jim Merkel has been writing about St. Louis and other things for quite a while, and we welcome him back to the program. Hi, Jim.
I'm delighted to be here.
Now, for a long time, you were a reporter, a writer for the Southside Journal.
Right.
Is that sort of what spawned your interest in all things St. Louis, particularly the South Side?
Well, I grew up in St. Louis. My family goes back to 1858. I left for 16 years, and then I came back with my wife and settled in South Side. Wrote for 9 years, specifically on for the Southside Journal, and it's a wonderful place. And then from that developed a project to do Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, which was my first edition, and now it's out in my second edition.
Right, and you're a proud resident, I think, of the Bevo Mill area?
A proud resident.
You make a point, I think it's in your introduction or something, about how St. Louis neighborhoods are sort of like St. Louis weather. You know, we always joke about if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes and it'll change. Oh, yeah. And you kind of make the point, if you just drive around South St. Louis, you'll see something new constantly also.
Constantly. This is a wonderful neighborhood. It's quirky. It's just like no place else in St. Louis. It's just there. It was the place where we were growing up in Webster Groves. You know, if you wanted to go and buy something very unusual and go to some unusual craftsman, you went down to the South Side, and it's just got so many unusual things, and I guess of course it's older. Of course it has the Scrubby Dutch. It has the Hoosiers. It has many, many things.
I got to ask you about that. I want to talk about your books, but since you bring up Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, this is the second volume of that book, Hoosiers
Right.
and Scrubby Dutch, St. Louis' South Side. And you know, there are some people, Jim, that might think Hoosiers is not a flattering term. But that's not exactly what you mean by it.
No, well, I mean, there are some people who, you know, like I grew up, I heard that very demeaning term. It's not, of course, it's not the Indiana Hoosiers.
Right.
It refers specifically to a kind of down-home hick, exactly describing the condition. I did have one time when I went out around just saying to people, what's a Hoosier? One guy said, you calling me and then you'd hear the beep, Hoosier. But I consider myself a Hoosier.
A proud Hoosier.
Proud Hoosier.
And Scrubby Dutch, of course, and I had German grandparents and German great-grandparents, so I know what Scrubby Dutch means.
Right. And it's just amazing how many people remember that. And there's a woman by the name of Mary Tomasi. She's amazingly energetic. She's 101 years old. I interviewed her. She talked about how she used to scrub the sidewalks and
People would scrub their front porches back
Right.
in the day.
Oh yeah, they would.
The Germans would,
Right.
at least.
Sure. Everybody did.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. And if you didn't, you were not, it was bad. You know.
I want to point out some of your previous books, which are here in front of us. Of course, there's Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, the first volume, but also, and I might say that I've interviewed you about all these books over time, there's Beer, Brats, and Baseball, St.
Right.
Louis Germans, and the Making of an Icon, the Dreamers and Schemers, and the Hard Hats who built the Gateway Arch. So as far as Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, why did you feel you needed a second edition?
Well, we ran out of the first edition, and we could have just turned on the press, but there were so many continuing stories that hadn't been told that we decided that we'd freshen it up. That we have most of the stories from the original thing, but we have things like Globe Drug. We have many. Pete. We have a guy who was kind of an oddball TV guy. And
An oddball TV guy.
yeah.
There are some of those out there, but let's not go into that.
Right. Pete Perezzi.
Jim, so really what the book is about, it's a bunch of little chapters about people, places, and things that makes South St. Louis special, really is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So why don't you brought along some pictures from the book, and these are some of the new items that are in the second edition. Why don't we look at a couple of those?
Okay, sure.
And you can tell us what this is about from the book, Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch.
Oh, that is Martin Dugan. He was for many years, he was the provocateur of Donnybrook on Channel 9. He retired a few years back, but I decided to interview him at his home on 4108 Connecticut Street. Of course, that's him when he was growing up on Connecticut Street. And when he was there, he's in his early 90s, but he was just so brilliant about pointing out, over there was such and such, over there was the Presbyterian Church. And even before he came out there, he knew every one of the nuns in his grade school and where they were. And I mean, I couldn't tell you that, but he still sounds like the provocateur. He still but he had some wonderful stories about South St. Louis.
Yeah, and they continually sort of give him a tip of the hat on Donnybrook to this day.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take a look at the next picture.
Sure. Oh, that's the Grove neighborhood. That's Manchester, from Kings Highway to Vandevenner. About 15 years ago, you kept your windows up not only at the night but during the daytime. But I did a story about how some people, especially Guy Slay, who's a relative of the mayor, and how he took a chance of improving a place, and it's improving a place at Tower Grove and Manchester, and now it's one of the homes of Sweetie Pies, which is known nationally.
Right, because they have that reality TV
Oh yeah,
show.
and so they've really done some amazing things.
There's all kind of clubs, and I mean, you're going to find something down there. I just recently had sushi. There's a new place down there at Siam, I think it is called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Had some sushi down there. It was really good.
Right.
Who's this?
Oh, that's Guy Slay. That is the guy who people thought he was crazy to do that. And again, I mentioned he's a relative, not an immediate relative, but a relative of the mayor. And of course, when the mayor has reunions, they have a very large group of people. He fixed up this place, and of course, just the whole idea of putting in glass rather than boarding up the building, that was taking a chance.
Right.
But he did it, and he started his own restaurant at first, and then Sweetie Pies came in, and then other people took a chance. And it's an example of many neighborhoods that are coming back in the South Side. There's still a struggle at some places, but
yeah. Well, I remember when there was nothing there.
there was nothing there.
Hey, let me just pull something out of the book, just out of the blue, and have you comment on it. You have a page that you've devoted to the horse thieves of Carondelet.
Right. Yeah.
What was that about?
Well, there was some. This was something that I found in just a little tiny book about Carondelet, about how these people went out stealing horses. And my point about this was that, Carondelet's a very fine, many people think it's a very fine neighborhood, but somehow, eventually, these horse thieves got married, and they had children who had children who had children. And so, who knows, maybe some of the people who lived there have horse thieves in their background.
So if you own a horse in Carondelet, you better be careful.
Yeah, that's a horse of a different color, I guess.
There you go. Let's look at another picture from your book, Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, St. Louis's South Side.
Okay.
Jim Merkel is our guest today.
All right. Oh, yes, Hampton Village. There was actually a guy in the 30s when really Chippewa and Hampton were kind of like dirt roads. And his name was Brinkup, and he bought up some land. He had some ideas about how this would really expand, and he had and he took a chance and he opened in 39 the first stores.
1939?
39, and it's actually 75 years. And if you think about it, I don't know of any shopping center in the whole region that has been going along continually well. You look at Crestwood Plaza, it left, and then we know what happened to that. But this is just, when I was a kid, I remember going there from Webster Groves, and it's still vibrant.
Let's take a look at one more shot from the book.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's Hodak's. That's
Good fried chicken, right?
Good fried chicken. There was one time 4 fried chicken places on Gravois, and now that's down to 1. And they still, it's pretty much the original recipe. There were the little things that they weren't able to get, but it's a favorite of mine, and it's a favorite of a lot of people on the South Side.
You free for lunch today?
Sure, you fine.
Maybe we'll hit it. Hey, we need to take a break, Jim. When we come back, we want to talk more about your book, Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, Volume 2. We'll be back right after this.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, my father became seriously ill. I did what I could do before he passed, but it took its toll. I lost my job, my house. I'm getting back on my feet, but I don't know when there'll be food on the table. How'd I do, CJ?
We could be twins.
Well, cousins, maybe.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at energysavers.gov.
G-morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me. Are your parents home later? We can hang. LUV, love you. JK. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you with your friends? That's lame. We're in a huge fight right now. XO. What'd you dream about? Something I did. Are you on your way to the beach? I'm lonely. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
Steve Potter. Welcome back to City Corner. We're talking with Jim Merkel. He's the author of Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, Volume 2. He's back with us today. He's also written the other books that he brought with us today, Beer, Brats, and Baseball, and the Making of an Icon. And Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, Jim, really is just celebrating everything interesting about South St. Louis people, places, and things, I guess.
Oh, yes. Just so many things. It's the Beeville Mill. It's the Alexian Brothers Hospital where they had the
Exorcist.
exorcism that
Right.
The Exorcist is based on. It's Joe and Yogi. It's brain sandwiches, although it's really hard to get any brain sandwiches anymore. I guess we
There
don't
is
have-
someplace down there. You mentioned it in your book.
Well, not anymore actually.
Oh, really?
In my the woman died and it was closed, but you can get it in South County.
Okay, I have to stop you right there, Jim. I'm pretty brave. I eat some strange things. I've never had a brain sandwich because psychologically I just had a problem with it. Are they good?
I had some, and for a while it was okay, and that was.
Okay, you didn't like it. Okay, great.
And then I just figured it was for research, and then I went. I wanted to get a picture of it, and so I ordered the brain sandwich, and then I just took my picture, and then I handed it back to the people.
Then you had some egg salad or something, right?
No, well, no. I just left, and they gave it to somebody else. But I guess we don't have any brains here in the South Side.
Right. Interesting.
Right.
Let's take another look at a picture from your book. This is Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, Volume 2. So these are new things that were not in the first volume.
Sure.
And Jim Merkel is our guest, and this is
Right.
the next one.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the Royale. I've been there.
That's Steve Smith.
Yeah.
He's a fascinating guy. He's the epitome of cool. And this is on Kings Highway, just south of Arsenal. It's a hangout for Democrats, among other things, and they let Republicans in, but you know
That's nice of them.
That's through a side door. And but they had a big picture of the Hope Change, and I forget the third one. Pictures, huge pictures on the side of his building, like a billboard in 2008. And I remember for the South Side Journal, going to the Obama victory party it was about 250 people in 2008, and you could just feel the excitement and the thrill. And I'm sure that right now there wouldn't be as much of a thrill, although there are still lots of Democrats there, and obviously if a Republican came in, they would just welcome it fine, and they have lots of fun things to do. We had our release party there in the back open area.
I think I've seen music there too before.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So and we were sitting around this one. This looked like there was a bunch of rocks, and then Steve came by and he turned on this fire, and it was so cool seeing that.
Let's go to another picture from the book.
Okay.
Something else to brag about? South St. Louis.
Oh yeah. Once again, I was mentioning Mary Tomasi. I ran into her at this senior citizen center on Arsenal Street, pretty close to the state hospital. She is like I say, is a delight, and she did this 1 mile walk. I guess it was last year, and she was on Fox 2, and about doing this, and she had a cane, but she didn't use it because that would be for young people. I mean, that would be for old people.
Right.
So.
Right. Hey, another thing I wanted to ask you about. River de Pere is always an interesting South Side location to me.
Right.
Because often people don't realize it's a river.
Yeah. I mean,
Because it doesn't really look like one,
well,
depending on where you are.
you're in the yacht club, aren't you?
They have a yacht club?
No, yeah, the River de Pere Yacht Club. Well, that's the joke, But This was actually started during, I think it was around 1915. There was a storm and there was a flood, and some people were killed. And Merkel just arranged to have this part of a bond issue, this great big bond issue that was in 1923. And they did some work, like putting it underground in Forest Park, and
Right.
and of course WPA. That's the stone stuff that you see closer around
Work
wherever.
Projects Administration.
Right. Yeah. And but it still stinks,
Let's look at some more images from your
Sure.
book. I think we have two more. Let's go ahead and do both of those.
Okay.
Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, South St. Louis. There you go. Speaking of Scrubby Dutch.
We bought those again for the release party, and we still have a whole bunch of them. So we're trying to think of something. If anybody wants some of those, we can give them away.
Now, if I drive by your porch, Jim, be honest. How clean is your front porch?
I'm a Hoosier. My wife is the Scrubby Dutch, I'll tell you.
Let's look at the last picture. I think we have one more image from your book.
Okay. Right, Stork Young.
I'm not familiar with this at all.
Right. That is off of Virginia. There's three streets that come together, and that actually was one of a number of bars and restaurants that the Bushes put up before Prohibition to show that that a bar was not just some place to get drunk. You could have a meal with a family and then have a beer. Of course, it wasn't very successful, but it did continue as it went back to being a bar, and now a guy's got it. It's an architectural business.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, and so it looks cool on the inside.
I want to ask you about something that you've been involved with. In fact, earlier, it's been almost a year really, I think, when I first read something about it in the paper. Obviously, St. Louis has a great German heritage,
Right.
which is part of what you're all about here. But back during World War I, there was a lot of anti-German sentiment, and there were quite a few streets at the time that were named after Germans. And because of the anti-German sentiment, the street names were changed, and you're sort of on a mission to reverse that.
Right.
Tell me what you've done.
Along with the German American Heritage Society of St. Louis, we're doing an effort to have honorary designations, and our first one is down next to St. Anthony of Padua Church. Just east of there, there's a one-block street called Providence Place, and we have a little sign. This was approved recently by the Board of Aldermen, and it's just to put up something saying Knapstein Place, and it's just been put up. It's in German colors, and we were able to track down the family, and so this guy was a German immigrant, and he was a contractor, and he built homes. And in 1916, he got a building permit to build 5 tenements. Actually, it was very nice-looking homes, but they were called tenements. And but best as I can figure is somebody who knew him was behind this project to change the names.
So they haven't renamed the street, but they put up, I guess, commemorative kind of a plaque so that
Right.
the original street name is there. Are you hoping to do this on other streets too?
We're hoping to do all 5. Interestingly, we started earlier this year. We started on Pershing in the Central West End, which is Berlin Avenue, and that is an area where there is a Jewish population, including some Holocaust survivors, and they were a little bit sensitive about having a sign saying Berlin Avenue, and we can understand that. We'd like to revisit this issue about, and I think they may be open to a plaque or something like that, but maybe not a sign. We don't know, but we'll have to.
Well, with that street aside, has it been an easy sell when you and that group first started talking to city officials about bringing the names back? Did people think it was a good idea?
It took a while. First, to get people to return our phone calls, and and then after that, the more and more people have gotten to know us. Everybody's on the bandwagon. The problem is we have to, for every single street, we have to get petitions of the block, and there's a couple blocks, Carl and Gresham, and near Gravois and Kings Highway, that are have 25 people, and it's hard to line them up.
Well, speaking of streets, I want to go back to your book, Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, because there's a chapter in here also where you talk about highways. Mm-hmm. So you address sort of, when the interstate highway system, how that affected the South Side, because, we all just kind of think of the way it is now, but before those highways came in, all those different areas were more connected. Highways broke up the neighborhoods.
Oh, absolutely, especially in the Hill. There's an area just north of the highway, which is technically in the Hill, but it's just they with a lot of pressure, they arranged to have another bridge put across, just to make it more connecting. But what I found interesting when I went out there is few people used that bridge. Whenever I was around, there was just other roads that people were going in. Mm-hmm. So, but there was the Damon home was almost destroyed, and there was a big push to save it. And that's dear to my heart because after it was saved, my dad donated a piano made by my great-great-grandfather to the Damon home.
I think you've got a book in the works. We just have a few seconds left.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
What's your new project?
Oh, yes, we have the Unique Homes of St. Louis. Really strange and weird and interesting homes that say, wow.
So will that be out in 2015?
It should be.
Okay, well, come back and talk to us about that, would you?
Oh, we absolutely will.
Well, Jim Merkel, thank you so much. I enjoy your work, and we'll have a website, and of course, Hoosiers and Scrubby Dutch, St. Louis' South Side, available wherever books are sold.
Sure.
Or from Reedy Press, and we'll have some contact information come up.
Sure.
So, Jim, it's always fun to talk to you, and thanks for chronicling what's going on in the city.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm Steve Potter, and that's it for this edition of City Corner. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.